So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Kurenai and Anko, so let's start the series. One of the Jounin ninjas pursuing the 12-year-old boy yelled, "Get him!" For some reason, despite their experience, the Jounin were having trouble catching him. "Stop right there, kid," the same Jounin called, but the child just stuck out his tongue and continued running, taunting him. The boy turned around, grinning, and squinted his electric blue eyes in delight before disappearing in a flash of blonde hair. The ninja could see that the boy was unquestionably the son of Konoha's Yellow Flash. The Jounin was going to pursue the youngster when he was tapped on the arm. He had to turn around and face the lad in front of him, who was the second son of the village's Hokage. The boy had purple eyes and spiky hair that was as red as blood. The young guy answered, "I'll take care of this," and he moved forward a little. The youngster produced a three-pronged kunai from his pouch, so the man didn't even need to speculate as to what would happen next. There was no time to react as the red-haired boy simply stuck out his foot and tripped the blonde-haired boy, sending the child tumbling down the building's roof and onto the ground. The boy flicked the kunai up towards his blonde brother, and as it reached the child, there was a red flash and the boy who had been next to him was now right next to his brother. When the boy recovered, he was massaging his head. The blonde youngster yelled, "Ah, Erasure, what the fuck," to his stoic sibling. In response to the now identified Naruto, Erasure said, "You know that father doesn't like it when you vandalize the proud Hokage monument, Naruto." Naruto said in a scathing manner, "I don't give two shits about what that old man does and doesn't like, he only ever has time for you, so I need to preoccupy myself. That is because I have the 9 tails sealed inside of me and I need to learn to control it," became Erasure, who was becoming agitated. All Naruto Namikaze did was spit at his sibling while staring at him. Naruto replied, "You guys suck," as he stood up and began to run once more. Erasure retaliated by hurling a kunai at him and kicking him in the back of the head, sending him flying to the ground. He then grabbed Naruto by the back of his collar and took him to the academy while he was screaming and kicking. Iruka-sensei was interrupted when the door slid open and Erasure entered with a wriggling Naruto. "Okay class, today we will learn the basics of the Bunshin or clone jutsu, this is Dash." Everyone laughed when Erasure remarked, "Sorry, Iruka-sensei. I had to deal with my little brother." Naruto complained, "You're only 30 minutes older." Iruka said, "Okay guys, please take your seats," as Naruto and Erasure took their seats. Naruto sat down next to Sasuke Uchiha, who was arguably his favorite student in the class. Although he occasionally acted like a jerk, Naruto could relate to him because of the Uchiha massacre. Sasuke, his missing Nin brother Itachi, and Fuyumi Uchiha were the only Uchihas still alive. In addition to being Sasuke's twin sister and the most attractive girl in the school, Fuyumi was also one of the few girls who wasn't a fan of either Erasure or Sasuke. It would be strange if she were a fan of Sasuke, though. Sasuke became resentful and furious with almost everyone as a result, but Naruto discovered that he could identify with the Uchiha in some ways. When class resumed, Naruto was jolted out of his reverie by Sasuke's small nod in response to his casual greeting, "What's up, Sasuke?" Sasuke was the only person who truly showed him kindness, which is why Naruto thought of them as friends. Iruka-sensei said, "Okay everyone, back to the Bunshin no Jutsu, can someone explain to me how it works?" Erasure then held up his hand. "Yes Erasure," Iruka said. Arashi's smug look caused Naruto to roll his eyes. "Hi, The Bunshin or clone jutsu is an illusory jutsu where one makes clones of themselves. However, this jutsu does not actually affect the physical world because it is simply an illusion, he said. Very good, Erasure. Irika-sensei grinned and continued discussing the jutsu until the end of the day's classes. Naruto had some free time, so he decided to swing by Ikaraku's before checking to see if anyone else was out. Old man Tsuchi and his daughter Ayame welcomed Naruto with open arms when he arrived at Ichiraki's. The store owner asked Naruto, "Hello Naruto, what would you like?" He was wearing what appeared to be a white gi and a chef's hat, with short gray hair underneath the hat. Despite his advanced age, he was a very lively man, and Naruto discovered that he got along well with Tsuchi. Naruto had fallen in love with the place ever since his father took him there for the first time, but he hadn't visited with him in a long time because the Hokage was always so busy. Tsuchi got a tick mark on his forehead from the way the 12-year-old blonde child was speaking to him, but he ignored it since he understood Naruto's predicament and that he needed all the attention he could get. "Yeah, I'll have the usual, old man, thanks," Naruto said. Tsuchi turned to see his beautiful daughter, who had already had to ward off some boys who were attempting to speak to his beloved daughter, taking out the bowl and chopsticks to place the food he was cooking in. She had brown eyes, a warm smile on her face, and long brown hair tied up in the back of her shirt. "You look nice today," Naruto said to Ayame, who smiled and thanked him. But then Naruto froze when he saw Tsuchi turn just his head around, his face looking like a demon, with his eyes glowing white and his smile extraordinarily broad. The chef whispered, "Naruto, your food is ready," and before Naruto could react, Tsuchi appeared in front of him, his smile uncontrollably expanding. Before Naruto could react, he had hot ramen shoved down his throat, which he spat out and backed away from the stand. Naruto asked incredulously, what was that for?" Tsuchi stood in front of Naruto once more and said, "Now, Naruto, you must eat your food before it gets cold." How was he managing to do that? As Tsuchi pushed the ramen back down Naruto's throat, his evil smile became even wider. He was outpacing Erasure and even Naruto's father in speed. The only sound was the screaming, which seemed to be coming from a young girl. At the home of the Hokage, Minato was working on paperwork in his office when he suddenly sneezed. He also heard someone else sneeze from the kitchen, which meant that someone must have been discussing him and his father, his son Erasure. It was only Naruto, who was most likely at the ramen stand having fun. With all of the recent antics, Minato had to worry about not only the important things but also the minor vandalism that his son was doing. Why couldn't he be like Erasure? Erasure was gifted, intelligent, and mature, and he was also a lady killer, just like Minato when he was a kid. The best thing about the older twin, though, was that he inherited most of Kushina's appearance. Oh, how he missed her. The only remnant of her was in their son Erasure, the Kyubi no Kitsune, who had also mastered in a year 2 very high-ranked jutsus that took Minato years of practice to learn, though his Hiraishin required some work. Minato would surprise Erasure by taking him out to exercise after setting aside all of his work and entering the kitchen. The park was a place where Naruto could go to be alone after leaving the ramen stand. He was usually alone, but this time he was alone in a crowd. At night, he could enjoy the peace and quiet that allowed him to reflect on some things, but this quiet was brief because he heard footsteps behind him. When he turned around, he saw none other than the stunning Fuyuki Uchiha. Suddenly, he was unable to move because he had frozen up from nervousness, but the raven-haired girl didn't seem to notice. She looked very similar to Sasuke, but she also had a more angular face than Sasuke's, and her long onyx hair pulled up in a ponytail gave her a sharp beauty. Her gait demonstrated both her experience as a ninja and the grace and dignity of a clan leader. Naruto had fallen in love with her from the first day he saw her, but he never really spoke to her, and whenever he was close to her, he would get nervous. The gorgeous voice of Fuyuki tickled Naruto's ears as she asked, "Hi, why are you all by yourself? You're Naruto from the academy, right?" Unfortunately, Naruto was too preoccupied with the fact that she knew his name to talk at the moment. She asked, "Are you okay?" to get him to stop thinking. With anxiety, he said, why yeah sorry." She repeated, "It's okay, so why are you here all by yourself? Where are your friends?" Naruto's anxiety vanished, and instead he felt a pang in his chest. He remarked, "I don't have any, my brother Erasure ruined my chances of making any," drawing the attention of the attractive woman with the raven hair. With a hint of excitement for Naruto, she said, "Wait, your brother is Erasure?" "Yes, why?" he asked doubtfully. She smiled and said, "Oh, it's just that he is the best in the class, and he is the Hokage's son. I didn't know he had a brother, so I guess you must be the Hokage's son too." Naruto had no idea that Erasure was not only his brother, but also the Hokage's son. As the conversation went on, he became ill and felt like he was going to throw up. Fuyuki grinned when Naruto said, "Well, I have to go home now, it was good talking to you." She responded, "Yeah, it was great meeting you, Naruto-san," as Naruto left. Anyone seeing Naruto attentively would notice that he appeared disturbed as he moved through the streets of Konoha. He grimaced as the sour taste in his tongue made him think of just one thing as he made his way to his home. "You will pay Erasure." The following day, as the majority of the class applauded, Irika-sensei remarked, "Good morning, class. Today we will be having practice spars. So pick your partner and let's head outside. I'm going to fight you, Erasure." The students were giggling and muttering, which enraged Naruto and gave him even more energy. Naruto's words captured everyone's attention. Naruto didn't really care for many of the fights, so he went and sat down by a tree and waited for his name to be called. The students all went outside to the sparring rings, where Irika-sensei explained the rules. The basic idea was not to use lethal force unless the opponent was approaching you with the intent to kill. After everyone accepted the rules, people began their spars, and the audience cheered and jeered as some of their friends were either victorious or defeated. Irika-sensei said, "Naruto Namikaze, it's your turn, you will be facing Erasure Namikaze," as all of Arashi's fangirls applauded him and prepared for battle by assuming their ready postures. "Start," Irika-sensei said, as Naruto ran at his brother determined to win. He threw a clumsy punch at his face, which the latter easily brushed aside. In addition, Naruto lost his balance and his face fell to the ground, causing all of his classmates to start laughing at him. Nevertheless, Naruto got back up and continued fighting, sending punch after punch at Arashi's face, all of which were either blocked or dodged, but he decided to mix things up a little. He sent a punch at Arashi's face, which Erasure ducked under, but he was expecting this and brought up his knee, which collided with Arashi's face, causing him to stumble back. While Erasure was stunned, Naruto took advantage of the situation and punched his brother in the face, leaving everyone stunned. Sasuke was the only person who had ever really been able to hit Erasure in a spar before. Naruto mockingly remarked, "Huh, how do you like me now, big bro?" He failed to see, though, that Arashi's crimson hair hid his eyes. Erasure suddenly started sprinting after Naruto, got inside his guard, and knocked him to the ground with a single, clean blow. Naruto was so stunned that he believed he could hear a voice while he was dead on the ground. The voice in his head was very baritone. "You are weak, boy, let me lend you some power," he said. All of a sudden, Naruto could feel great power rushing through him, and for some reason there was a lust for battle in this power. On Naruto's face, his whisker marks morphed, they all got a lot thicker near his face, and stayed thinner towards the end of his cheeks. The top whisker marks curved up past Naruto's eyes and up to his forehead where they became parallel to each other. The middle whiskers stayed as they were, but the bottom whiskers curved down along his jawline and stopped at the edges of his jaw. His eyes also changed, his irises turned blood red, but there was no pupil in them. Around Naruto's hands, a black energy with red outline formed. Then Naruto lost control of his body to the battle lust. The black and red energy formed into what looked like two kunai which Naruto threw at his brother. Erasure pulled out one of the special three-pronged kunai and deflected Naruto's own kunai. However, Arashi's danger sense went off and he jumped back as both of the kunai exploded. The explosion was still large enough to affect him. Erasure went tumbling to the ground. "Naruto!" Iruka-sensei shouted. The students were so shocked that they were unable to do anything. Iruka-sensei was going to step in, but Erasure stopped him. He pulled out a bunch of three-pronged kunai and threw them around Naruto, saying, "I have to deal with this on my own." His younger twin brother grunted in response and used the strange energy to form a two-handed sword, which he then threw at Naruto, which he deflected with an upward slash. Erasure then used Haration and teleported behind Naruto in a red flash, but what he didn't anticipate was that Naruto would be facing him when he teleported. However, once he got airborne, Naruto leaped up with reckless speed and sent a downward two-handed slash at Erasure, which Erasure put up to block, but he didn't anticipate the outward concentrated that the explosion caused, sending him hurtling to the ground. How did Naruto get this strong? He shouldn't be able to put me on the ropes like this, thought Erasure. That's right, biatch, Naruto said, fully aware of the circumstances, but he didn't care because he was only concerned with whooping his brother's ass. The person who was so loved by everyone else would finally know his place. In order to defeat Naruto, Erasure decided he needed to become serious. In an instant, he was behind Naruto, who was preparing a backward slash while twisting his body. However, Erasure was also ready, so he teleported to the front of Naruto and kicked him in the stomach, causing him to slide back. He continued doing this repeatedly until Naruto was exhausted. However, Naruto became angry and began slashing at Erasure wildly, so Erasure threw his kunai at his face, which was avoided. Anticipating this, Erasure teleported behind Naruto. Everyone cheered for Erasure, saying things like, "Nice job beating up that twerp," and other hurtful things. Did they realize that Naruto was his brother? The children kept shouting cruel things about him until Erasure lost it. "I'm sorry, Naruto," Erasure thought sadly as he kicked him in the back of the head, knocking him out. "Stop talking," everyone instantly fell silent as he stated that, as they were shocked that the most composed individual at the academy would become so irate. Erasure grabbed up his brother and took him to the hospital, leaving everyone stunned. "You guys are horrible, my brother is really cool, even though he is annoying, he is still cooler than all of you," he stated. At the Hokage mansion again, Minato was furious with Naruto for attempting to kill Erasure, but Naruto had recovered from his altercation with Erasure and was now seated at the dinner table with his father and brother. "Naruto, what happened to you? Why would you attempt Arashi's murder?" Minato inquired in a fit of rage. "Dad, I don't know what happened, something washed over me and I couldn't control myself, said Naruto. Stop that nonsense from me. You don't unintentionally run a sword and kunai at someone with no intention of killing, refuted Minato. I don't want to hear about this anymore, and you won't be permitted to continue your ninja training the next time. That's it. The family ate the remainder of their meal in silence since Naruto didn't reply. Today was Naruto's last day at the academy. He was very happy to be a genin at last, but there were a few issues with that. First, his high chakra reserves made it impossible for him to perform basic Bunshin Jutsu properly. They were even higher than his brother's, who was housing the Kyuubi. Second, he was ranked dead last in his class at everything, but that was because his amazing father didn't have the time to train him. Finally, halfway through the year, a new teacher named Mizuki arrived to assist Iruka in class. He was very shady and seemed to despise Naruto. The fact that Erasure had won Rookie of the Year also annoyed Naruto. Erasure was obviously very talented, but Naruto could be just as good if he could just train with his father. Naruto didn't even place second or third. The class was recognized for having the top 5 students, and Naruto wasn't one of them. But to get right to the point, today was the last test before the students graduated, and Naruto was thrilled about the prospect of becoming a ninja at last and possibly proving to his father that he was more than just a helpless nuisance. The test would consist of both a written and a practical component. As he distributed the tests to the class, Iruka-sensei said, "Okay, class, today is your final exam as you may know. First we will be taking the written exam and then we will take the practical exam." As he distributed the final exam, he added, "Okay, you may start." Everyone got their pencils and began writing on their tests. Naruto looked at the test and was pleasantly surprised to see that the questions were not too difficult. He glanced around the room and noticed that some of the other people were having trouble answering some of the questions. Although he might not have had the physical ninja skills of Sakura, he was definitely street smart. Naruto picked up his pen and began writing down his answers. After Naruto set down his pencil after finishing his test, Iruka approached, gathered everyone's tests, and began to explain the next test. Iruka explained, "Okay, so we're going to start the practical exam. There will be 2 parts to this exam, an accuracy test and a jutsu test. For the accuracy test, you'll be given 10 kunai and shuriken, which you will throw at the target. You have to get at least 1 of each on the bullseye and 7 on the target itself. Anything less will result in failure. For the jutsu test, you'll be required to perform substitution, transformation, and bunshin jutsu. If you don't perform any of these, you'll also fail." "Hello," all of the pupils answered. After Mizuki nodded and rounded up half of the class, Iruka began the other test for the remaining half of the class. "Okay then, Mizuki, I need you to take half of the students into the other classroom to do the jutsu test and I will do the accuracy test in here," Iruka remarked. After passing all the tests with relative ease, Naruto only needed to complete the bunshin test. Naturally, Erasure had to ace every test because he was so good at everything. Naruto had just finished the other 2 jutsus and was prepared to perform the third, so he made the hand signals. A puff of smoke appeared, and another Naruto appeared that was exactly like Naruto, but that was insufficient. "You fail," Mizuki said. "But why?" incredulously, Naruto asked. "Because you were supposed to create 3 clones, you were only able to make 1 clone, which means that you fail," said Mizuki with a faint smirk. Once more, The underlying malice in Mizuki's actions toward Naruto was evident, and Naruto couldn't understand why Mizuki hated him. He had never done anything to deserve Mizuki's hatred. For the time being, though, all Naruto could do was accept his failure and try again later. Arashir had some thoughts on the matter. He defended Naruto by saying, "Hey, I think Naruto did well enough, Mizuki-sensei. He may not be the best ninja here, but he tried his hardest and did okay," and after Arashi's last outburst, no one dared to criticize him. "Yes, Arashi-kun, but okay is not good enough to keep you alive in a real-life situation," replied Mizuki. "Just because he is the son of the Hokage, that does not give him any special exception to this rule." "Yes, sensei," Arashir said in defeat. After all of the students had assembled, Iruka-sensei said, "Okay, you are all dismissed for now. Tomorrow those of you that passed will assign to teams and given a Jounin-sensei, so get some rest." He was one of the few people who truly paid attention to Naruto, and he was a little disappointed to see that he was unable to pass. Sure, he had his problems, but that was only because he was neglected so much and placed in the shadows of his father and brother. He decided that he would give Naruto some food to help him overcome his failure, so he approached him and patted him on the back to get his attention. Iruka said, "Hey Naruto, why don't you come with me to Ichiraku's?" as she noticed Naruto brighten. As they were leaving the classroom, they failed to see that Mizuki was giving them both a glare. Iruka made the decision to ask Naruto a question while traveling to Ichiraku's. "Why do you believe you failed, Naruto?" he inquired. Iruka was a little upset by Naruto's sorrowful expression as he replied, "Well, I know Mizuki doesn't like me very much and was looking for any small reason to fail me, but he already knew where he wanted this conversation to go." Iruka grinned as she said, "Yes, that may be true, but one thing I want you to never do is blame others for what happens to you. You may be absolutely right, but it is better that you look at yourself so that you make the most improvement that you can. If you follow this principle, you will be able to go far." Naruto somewhat brightened up and grinned back at Iruka. "Thank you, Iruka-sensei," Naruto said as they arrived at the restaurant. Tucci approached them and they sat down at the counter. "Hello, Naruto-kun and Iruka-kun. What's the plan for today?" As Naruto and Iruka placed their orders, he asked cheerfully. Despite this, Naruto was still a little anxious from his previous experience with the ramen vendor. As Tucci moved to the kitchen to start preparing the food, Ayam left. Naruto began with great enthusiasm, "Hey Ayam dash," but as he turned to see Tucci still cooking, he noticed that the chef's head was completely turned to face him with a smile on his face. He was laughing softly, and Naruto could see an Oni mask floating above his head. Naruto became very alarmed and became very quiet. "What's wrong?" Ayam inquired, but Naruto refused to speak to her or even turn to face her. Ayam realized this and turned to face her father, who was whistling and had his head turned back to normal. "Hey Dad. Naruto is not attempting anything," Ayam reprimanded her father, who appeared unaware. Iruka could only laugh at the scene that was unfolding before him. When the ramen was arrived and they began eating, Naruto was thrilled when Iruka promised to cover the cost of the lunch. However, Iruka quickly regretted this when he turned to see that Naruto had somehow consumed 20 bowls of ramen in the 10 seconds that he had turned his head away. After eating, the two began to walk home. The moon was high in the sky, and the globe was glowing, illuminating the ground. Naruto and Iruka's living quarters were both fairly close to one another, so they had to walk in the same direction. As they did so, they struck up a conversation. "Hey Naruto, I was thinking, and I decided that I won't make you take another year in the academy. I realize that you have problems and I plan on helping you out personally," Irika joked. "Really? For me, you would do that?" Naruto looked up in astonishment and asked. "Yes, I've seen how hard you were working in the academy and I think that there is a specific reason that you cannot perform the Bunshin Jutsu. I will work with you to fix that one problem that you have," Irika assured Naruto. Naruto started to say, "Thanks Ir dash," but his sensei shoved him aside before he could finish. At first, Naruto didn't understand why Irika had done this until he looked at his sensei's back. A Fuma shuriken protruded from the back of his Chunin jacket, and the jacket itself was red with Irika's blood. Naruto looked wide-eyed and his mouth dropped open, wondering how this had happened and how someone as strong as Irika could be hurt in this way. He realized that Irika wasn't the strongest person in the village by a long shot, but he wasn't a pushover, so who could do this to him? As if to answer his unspoken questions, someone spoke up. "Damn it, Irika. I would have gotten that brat good if you hadn't noticed me. Why did you have to stand in my way?" the voice said. It couldn't be. No matter how much he hated Naruto, one of Konoha's own ninja would not try to betray the village. Naruto didn't want to turn around, but what was the point? It was sad to admit, but deep down, Naruto wasn't surprised. He turned around out of fear of another attack, and the first thing he saw was how beautifully the moonlight reflected off of Mizuki's hair. Then he looked at Mizuki's face, and a sneer that screamed contempt was etched on the man's face. "I will finally get rid of you, you little annoyance. You believed you were unique because you were the Hokage's son, but you and your brother, you monsters, killed a lot of people." But Mizuki didn't know that Naruto didn't really have the Kyuubi inside of him. He yelled. Irika muttered, "And Mizuki, you're delusional." "No," Mizuki replied with a vicious grin, "I'm doing this village a service by getting rid of this brat that no one wants. I can't get Erasure because everyone would be after me, but Naruto here won't get a peep from anyone." Why did that hurt so much? Perhaps what Mizuki said was accurate. No one cared about Naruto at all, and his father never gave him a second thought. The majority of the locals were unaware of his father's identity and assumed he was an orphan. "Child, do you feel helpless?" a sudden voice interrupted Naruto's thoughts, and although he was initially perplexed and didn't know where the voice was coming from, he made the decision to respond. The voice came out again after Naruto nodded his head timidly, uncertain of what might happen as a result of his reaction. "Then let me assist you," the voice said. This voice was different from the one Naruto had heard when he was fighting Erasure. It sounded very powerful and resonated with bloodlust, indicating an unending desire for battle. This voice, however, was different. It was just as powerful, but it spoke of wisdom, and it sounded as though it came from someone who was all-seeing. Surprisingly, that was not far from the truth. Naruto experienced a surge of power after the voice spoke. A blue aura encircled him and gradually made its way to his head, but he was unconcerned because he could sense something filling inside of him as the aura condensed around his eyes, causing his pupils and the rest of his eye to disappear and be replaced by a sky-blue glow. "What's going on?" Mizuki inquired, rather taken aback. With a double voice, Naruto declared, "I am this boy's protector. If you want to harm him, you will have to face my judgment." As Mizuki got ready to fight, he was a little perplexed. What is this jutsu that brat is using? I hope it's not like the one he used against Erasure, he thought. I wasn't worried because all that was happening was that Naruto's eyes were glowing. Mizuki decided that this brat wouldn't deter him. Mizuki ran at Naruto and pulled out a kunai in each hand. He used his left hand to deliver a horizontal slash at Naruto's face, assuming that given his speed, Naruto wouldn't be able to avoid it. To his great surprise, however, Naruto leaned back slightly and barely avoided the slash. Mizuki was left speechless, wondering how a ninja's failure could evade a Chunin attack. "He just got lucky," Mizuki said, confident that he would hit the brat this time as he stabbed Naruto in the chest with his right hand. Even yet, Mizuki's entire arm became numb as Naruto ducked to the right of the strike and sucked up his left hand. Naruto then lightly poked a point on his right shoulder. "Aw!" Mizuki couldn't believe it. Naruto not only avoided his blow, but he also countered by utilizing Mizuki's forward momentum against him. With a gentle tap, he even incapacitated his right arm. Naruto said in his eerie voice, "You're too easy to predict. Even without my eyes that see all, and my knowledge, I would still be able to defeat you," sending goosebumps up Mizuki's spine. Mizuki, however, would not accept that a failure could defeat him so easily. He used his remaining limbs to deliver numerous punches and kicks, but Naruto was avoiding all of these attempts as if they were insignificant. Irika, on the other hand, was stunned and couldn't believe Naruto could keep up with a Chunin-level ninja. To make matters worse, Naruto even appeared a little uninterested when he was speaking to Mizuki. He had to act quickly since he didn't know how the fight would finish if he continued, and Mizuki was wondering the same thing when he was fighting Naruto. How was this youngster who failed his exam able to keep up with him so easily? Mizuki was shocked when, as if reading his mind, Naruto vanished from view. How could a child who lacked even genin-level talent vanish from his view? Observing the entire event, Irika glanced at Naruto, who had entered his guard by using the momentum from one of Mizuki's punches. The move was so swift that Irika assumed Mizuki believed Naruto had simply vanished. Irika was extremely frightened. He didn't know what was happening to Mizuki, but it appeared as though a ton of volts of electricity were shocking him. Naruto rose from his crouching position and placed his thumb on Mizuki's forehead, pulsing a stream of blue aura into his thumb. As the aura seeped into Mizuki's head, he began screaming. After a short while, Mizuki's eyes rolled into the back of his head and he began foaming at the mouth. When Mizuki collapsed to the ground unconscious when Naruto withdrew his thumb, Irika glanced up at him and mutely inquired, "How did you treat him?" When Naruto's eerie voice said, "I simply overloaded his brain with all of my knowledge, he should be a vegetable now," the blue glow vanished and Irika noticed that Naruto had returned to his normal self. "Did we win?" Before he passed out, I asked the now normal Naruto. When Naruto woke up, the first thing he saw was a white ceiling. He was lying on something soft, but he couldn't tell what it was. He was a little uneasy because he didn't know where he was or how he got there. Before he finally remembered everything that had happened, a few other bizarre ideas crossed his mind. He suddenly jolted to his feet and realized he was in a hospital bed. The room was completely empty except for the bed and the medical equipment beside it, as if he only needed the most basic care from the doctors and nurses. However, that was only secondary because Naruto had a thought. "Irika-sensei, where are you?" When his room's door opened, Naruto became frightened and was ready to bolt from the bed. When Naruto looked up, he was immediately overcome with a bad feeling since it was his incredibly ideal brother Erasure who had entered the room. "You're awake, Naruto," Erasure exclaimed as he shut the door after himself. "Erasure, what do you want?" Ignoring his brother's apparently anxious expression, Naruto said icily. "Well, I was worried about you after I heard what happened," replied Erasure. "You seemed like you weren't hurt but you were out for a whole day. Whatever occurred to me doesn't matter to me. Where is Iruka-sensei? This was Naruto's icy response. He seemed unconcerned that his brother had come to see him. His only concern was for his sensei, who was one of the few individuals who genuinely cared about him. Apparently unfazed by Naruto's tone, Erasure responded, "Oh, he's fine. He was discharged earlier and told to take a day off from work. The doctors also said that when you wake up you could leave," Erasure remarked. After learning that Iruka was okay, Naruto let out a sigh of relief and realized that the doctors didn't really care about him. To start, when he woke up, no one was there to tend to him, and his brother informed him that he was being discharged rather than seeing a professional. Nevertheless, he accepted this information quickly because that was how he was typically treated, and he got up to go home with Erasure. Erasure seemed quite eager to discuss what had happened with Naruto. "So, what took place? How did you manage to repel Mizuki in that manner?" An extremely interested Erasure asked. With a sigh, Naruto recounted the events, but he altered them to make it appear as though Iruka was the one who repelled Mizuki and suffered injuries. Erasure, however, didn't believe it due to one specific detail. As the brothers arrived at the Hokage's house, Erasure thought, how could Iruka-sensei have turned Mizuki into a vegetable? Maybe something happened with Naruto like that day and he's not telling me. Erasure abruptly said, "Oh yeah, Dad wants to talk to you." Naruto gave a hasty, "Okay," but he thought to himself, "Well, shit, I wish you had told me sooner. Now I have to listen to this geezer yell at me." As Naruto had anticipated, his father scolded him as soon as he entered the home. "What the devil were you thinking, Naruto? You were fighting a Chunin, but why?" Minato shouted more than she asked. "What are you saying? Iruka would have informed you that it was a fucking surprise strike if you had spoken to him by now." "What? Do you expect me to simply stand there and die?" Naruto replied, his blood boiling. He knew his father would scold him, but he never imagined that he would be held responsible for the entire incident. "No, I didn't think you would do that, but you ought to have sprinted for assistance," Minato, who was now furious, replied. "And let Iruka perish," roared Naruto, who had had enough of his father and the nonsense, released all of his bottled-up rage. Erasure attempted to interrupt, but his father forbade it. "Dad, I think Erasure, you be quiet right now, Naruto. It's good that you were able to take out a Chunin, but I don't know where these abilities are coming from and I definitely don't want you using them. Also, we couldn't get any information from Mizuki because you did something to him. I don't want you to leave this building until the Genin teams are announced," said Minato with a smile. Minato's words stuck in his head just as he was about to speak. He was going to be a Genin? How did it happen? Did Iruka do it? No, that wouldn't make sense because his father had to approve. Naruto glanced at his father and reasoned that his father wasn't ignoring him. He swiftly refuted that idea and turned to go. Naruto muttered, "Whatever," but he was secretly thrilled. He went to bed upstairs, but Naruto missed the barely noticeable glimmer of anguish in his father's eyes as he walked away. The few days leading up to the team placement passed rather swiftly. On the day of the actual placement, Naruto made sure to get up early because he didn't want to be late to join his team. He hurried to the academy, and when he arrived in the classroom, everyone turned to stare at him. They were whispering that Naruto had failed, and Naruto obviously heard all of this, but he chose to ignore it, that is, until one particularly obnoxious person approached him. "Why are you here, idiot? You failed the test, didn't you?" snickered the individual. Will you kindly remove your forehead from my face? After Naruto's response, which made the other kids in the class chuckle under their breath and even her lover Sasuke laugh, Sakura became enraged and began shaking Naruto by the collar. You are a piece of trash. I'll murder you, Sakura screamed as she cocked her fist back and punched Naruto in the face. Just as the blow was about to connect, a dry cough came from the front of the room. Sakura looked up, paused, and quickly put Naruto down before apologizing to Iruka. When Naruto turned around and saw Iruka, his eyes widened. He didn't think that his sensei, whom he had been worried about and hadn't seen in days due to the attack, would appear and be fine. Iruka simply gave him a knowing smile and began speaking to the class. Good morning class, Iruka began. Today you all will become official genin of the Hidden Leaf Village, he said, grinning. Before continuing, he took out a list that included the names of all the pupils who were divided into teams. Once you are placed in your teams, you will go with you senseis to get to know each other a little better and to complete different missions with your senseis. You will probably start off with the lowest of missions, which are of D rank, and then you will work your way up. However, before I announce the teams, I'd like to introduce you all to someone, Kurenai. Everyone gasped when Iruka finished speaking because a boy entered the room. He was tall, about as tall as Choji, making him the tallest of them. His black hair fell into a ponytail, and, think Trunks post-HTC. He was wearing a thin shirt and pants with armor on his arms and all over his torso, covering all of his vital areas. He had black eyes and a handsome, angular face that made some of the weaker-willed girls in the room squee. Naruto rolled his eyes because he had just taken away from him. Even as the class began to murmur, Iruka went on. As everyone gaped in astonishment, Iruka said, "This is Hara Senju. He has been in private training while you all were in the academy. However, he will be joining a team with some of you here, so I hope that you will be able to get along." Did Iruka-sensei just say Senju? As in the village's legendary first and second Hokage? The latter was thought to be even stronger than the current one, with his younger brother being on par with the fourth Hokage, so everyone assumed that Hara must be extremely talented. As they awaited Hara's response, even Naruto listened. As he walked to join the rest of the class, everyone couldn't help but nod subliminally in agreement. Hello everyone, my name is Hara Senju and I will be joining the other genin on a team, but I hope to get to know not just the people on my team but also everyone in my class, he said in a cool, collected voice. He seemed so perfect that he even rivaled someone like Erasure Namikaze. Iruka grabbed up the papers and began naming off names, saying, "All right, now that you've met your new comrade, we can start placing you into teams." Team 7 was made up of Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. This was an interesting dynamic because, although Naruto was friends with Sasuke, he detested Sakura. Sakura hated Naruto but loved Sasuke, and Sasuke was indifferent to both of them and thought Sakura was very annoying. Sakura couldn't decide whether to cry or shout with joy, which caused her to have a strange expression on her face where she was both crying and smiling. The other Sasuke fangirls were just crying because they wished they could replace Sakura and Naruto. Some even considered hiring assassins to eliminate the two. Kiba, Shino, and Hinata made up Team 8. Shino appeared unconcerned about his colleagues' problems, while Kiba was thrilled to be on a team with his beloved Hinata. Hinata, on the other hand, was rather depressed as her eyes briefly strayed to one Erasure Namikaze. Erasure, Ahara, and Fuyumi made up Team 9, which created a stir in the class. All three of them were flawless, Ihara wasn't particularly well known, but he exuded an air of perfection, and Erasure was already the king of the guys, surpassing even Sasuke, who was a close second. As for Fuyumi, well, who wasn't the most attractive girl in the class and the smartest and strongest? Only Hinata was too shy to try to take that away from her. Naruto stared in disbelief. He and almost every other guy in the classroom, except Sasuke, of course, wished they could magically become one of the two most perfect people in the class, and Naruto felt a little extra hatred for his brother. This was also true for the girls who wished they could switch places with Fuyumi. The blush on Fuyumi's cheeks as she attempted to avoid looking at Erasure, however, was nearly invisible. I say nearly because Naruto was the only one who saw it, and he was furious, even more so because he knew that his father had formed the teams, but he remained silent and allowed the team placement to go on. Iruka decided to wrap things up after everyone was assigned to their teams. Team 10 was made up of Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji. This didn't surprise anyone because they were all aware of the well-known Ino-Shikacho combination. The three genin accepted it because they also knew they would be paired and their roles. Iruka waved to the class and said, "Okay everyone, those are the teams. I hope you all enjoyed your years at the academy. I know I personally did, however, it is time for me to turn you over to your new senseis. I hope that you can all keep me in your hearts," as he turned to leave with a tear in his eye. Everyone waved to him as he left, including Naruto, who said they would miss him because Iruka-sensei was one of the few people who was close to him and had done so much for him. As Iruka left, the Jounin began to enter the room using a Shushin technique. Before their sensei arrived, everyone was essentially unconcerned. However, an explosion broke out in the room where everyone was gathered, and a man with a katana strapped to his back emerged. He was dressed in a red gi and pants, wore traditional samurai sandals rather than nin sandals, and had auburn hair that was spiked up and a full goatee. He essentially resembled the guy from Samurai Champloo. When he said, "Yo, I'm here to pick up Team 9, everyone startled, and the other students in the classroom began chatting among themselves. "Isabi Yahiro, isn't he? He resembles a tail. I heard that he's already a Kage-level shinobi, but he doesn't want to do anything official and that's why he's still a Jounin. I heard that out of his class of genin, only Kakashi Hatake could actually hold his own in a fight against him. Even then I heard he still could never beat Yahiro-sensei. I've heard that he possesses 2 Kekii Genki and 3 natural transformations." Are you serious? Naturally, he would serve as Team 9 sensei. That is such a wonderful mix, and I'm envious, man. As Team 9 members approached the front of the classroom and left with their new sensei, the students were unable to control themselves. Naruto was essentially furious about the way things had gone because their father was constantly spoiling his favorite son and had to make everything perfect for him. As each sensei entered the room and started removing their teams, Naruto thought these things. After 2 hours of waiting during which Sakura was clearly enraged and Naruto and Sasuke were mildly irritated, Team 7 finally employed a Shushin Jutsu when a man with gray hair entered the classroom. He said the words "roof now," and then vanished in a whirl of foliage. "Are you serious as hell?" Sakura yelled as the 3 of them ascended to the roof. They reluctantly walked up and sat down with their sensei after they arrived to the roof and noticed the silver-haired Jounin sitting on the railing. Naturally, Sakura chose to strike up a conversation. "Why the fuck would you have dash?" The silver-haired man cut her off before she could finish. He said, "I hate you," with a very straight face, which made Sakura's face contort strangely. "What? With considerable skepticism, she inquired. She shivered as the silver-haired man turned to face her and said, "I hate you the most." Before going on, "Well, let's introduce ourselves." Naruto said, "Why don't you go first to give us an example?" as the man with the silver hair looked away. Even though Naruto was a little taken aback that they had chosen Kakashi Hatake as their sensei, he was still the second strongest member of his class and not as strong as Isabi Yahiro. "Okay, that's fine. My name is Kakashi Hatake and I hate you all," he stated, making them all perspire. As Naruto calmly stated, "Okay then, well, I'm Naruto and I just want to be recognized." Everyone stared at Sasuke with anxiety as he spoke. "My name is Sasuke Uchiha and there is someone I must kill," in a sinister manner. "I'm Sakura Haruno, and I'd like to wed Sasuke-kun," Sakura squealed, drawing disgusted looks from everyone else. Kakashi sighed, "Okay then, well, we have the loser, the emo, and the fangirl," eliciting different reactions from the three as he went on. Kakashi said, "Well, that's it for today. I want everyone at the gate tomorrow by 10 a.m. sharp. Oh, and also, don't eat anything," as he shuffled off, leaving the three of them on their own. They all made the decision to head home for the day. When Naruto returned home, his brother was the first person he saw. Erasure approached him and grinned. Naruto was taken aback when Erasure handed him a piece of paper with a technique on it. "Hey bro, Dad, let me get this technique from the Forbidden Scroll to give to you as your present for becoming a genin," he remarked. Dad requested this from Erasure. As he studied the technique, Naruto felt a little disbelieving. The scroll's title, Shadow Clone Jutsu, appeared quite complex, but Naruto thought he could manage it. After thanking Erasure, Naruto went upstairs to begin his practice. In the office of the Hokage, Hiruzen chose to enter while Minato was seated at his desk working on the pile of papers in front of him. He was examining the newly formed genin teams. "What's brought you here, Lord Third?" Without raising his eyes from his paperwork, Hiruzen asked Minato, groaned, and addressed his replacement. "Minato-kun, you know how I don't like you to call me that. You're also a Kage, you know. Anyway, I have to talk to you about your son," Hiruzen said with a sigh. "You've heard that Erasure won Rookie of the Year, right?" "I'm quite pleased with him," Minato smiled broadly as she said. Hiruzen spoke his next words extremely slowly, feeling as though he was about to acquire a headache. "No, Minato-kun, your other son," Hiruzen said, covering his left temple with his palm as though to prevent a headache. "Oh, what about him?" Minato asked, the smile disappearing almost immediately. "You are ignoring your son. Are you unaware that he passed away at the academy last? He has as much potential as Erasure, but you're preventing him from using it, so he can't," Hiruzen cried as he attempted to reason with his successor. "Ignoring him? No, he will continue to make mistakes and let people down if he doesn't learn to be strong on his own," Minato said with a hint of hatred. "No. You're treating him harshly because he makes you think too much of yourself. You're showing him too much affection because of what occurred in the past, even though Erasure looks like Kushina," Hiruzen yelled, which made Minato's face darken. Before he could say anything more, he gestured for his personal guard to exit the room. "You have no right to mention my beloved Kushina. And how dare you try to tell me how to raise my children?" Minato shot out, his voice this time devoid of respect. "If you must know, Naruto has no such issue and is not a threat, but Erasure has the 9 tails inside of him, which is why I am teaching him. However, Minato, these are your kids. You can't just treat them like weapons or emotionless objects. You also can't forget that Naruto has 8 potentially catastrophic entities inside of him. The one we saw effortlessly defeated the 9 tails, and there were 7 more. Doesn't that merit even the smallest amount of attention? After the event with Mizuki, did you even check in on Naruto? No, you most likely reprimanded him, Hiruzen said. He was furious now, unable to believe what Minato was telling him. It was ridiculous. Get out, Minato calmly replied, causing Hiruzen's eyes to enlarge. What? In a faint daze, he inquired. Go for it. Savagely yelled Minato, and Hiruzen could only detect a hint of insanity in Minato's eyes when they locked eyes. Hiruzen turned around and left the room without saying anything. Minato sat there for a minute after Hiruzen departed, then crazily pushed all of the papers off his desk while holding his hands to his head. As he exited the building and entered the street, Hiruzen was unaware of this. Although he appeared composed on the outside, his eyes were blazing with resolve, and he was secretly working on a plan. If Minato won't help Naruto-kun, then I will.